Hey, it's Sri here. In today's video, I'm going to talk you through 3 really important boundaries that you need to be setting in your marriage. Now, before we dive in, I know that marriages can be really complex and are obviously very emotional as well. And if you're watching this video, I know you're probably going through a really tough time. But I do really believe that in order to move forward and to progress, we have to create the right environment and we've got to create the right shifts within ourselves. And part of that is about setting boundaries. And all of my clients that have made such massive shifts in terms of their marriages have always been really proficient in terms of setting those boundaries. So make sure you watch this entire video and I'll go through some really important strategies that you can begin to apply immediately. Make sure you hit that subscribe button below and click on that bell notification as well, so every week you get access to my latest videos where I talk you through all about infidelity, talk you through more about male psychology as well, and what you can do to really maximize your chances of saving your marriage. Now, setting boundaries is a topic that's talked about a lot in marriages, but it means different things to different people and can be really confusing, especially when you're dealing with a person who might be a little bit more angry or a little bit more assertive. As a woman, you might find yourself backing into a corner, not really sure what to say, and you're worried about if you are to speak your truth or say the things that you need to say, that it's going to annoy him or piss him off or anything like that. And that's why it can create a lot of confusion. And not only that, but if we're holding on to these beliefs that, we're not good enough as we are, or, we feel abandonment issues and so on, that's going to further exacerbate some of the problems that you're facing as well. Because if that is your foundation, then it's going to prevent you from being able to say the things that you need to say and set the appropriate boundaries. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk you through 3 questions around boundaries that I've heard a lot, and I'm going to answer those accordingly so you know what you need to do and what the right approach is for you as you're moving through this difficult time in your marriage. Now, the first question I have here is, do I have sex with him if I'm going through a separation or a divorce? Now, this is specific to if you are going through a separation or a divorce, because this can often be the times where it becomes most challenging and difficult for women to be able to set the right boundary in this situation, because part of them will feel like, okay, well, if we're intimate, then hopefully it'll, start to progress there. And that kind of means that he really likes me and wants to potentially work on it. But then the other part of them is feeling like, well, I don't want to be used for sex. I don't want to feel used on any level. So then the question is what's the right decision? And the answer that I'm going to give you is it kind of depends. And I know that's not exactly the breakthrough answer that you're looking for, but it really does depend on the individual situation. I've had clients before who have maybe gone through a separation and have still maintained some physical intimacy, and have often stated that the intimacy that they're having and the sex that they're having has been more passionate than it ever has been. And they've been okay with it because they know that, mentally in their own mind, it's really a physical thing that they're dealing with. However, I equally have other clients who have done this, who have engaged in intimacy, and then afterwards just felt horrible because their husband just didn't communicate days later, and there wasn't a lot of connection afterwards and so on. It was almost just like a straight up transaction or purely a physical thing. So it really does fundamentally come down to how will you handle it if you're in that situation. If you have physical needs and you want those met and you're okay with maintaining that physical connection even during a separation or a divorce, and you're able to sort of have that line in the sand where you know that you're not going to tip over emotionally, then that's absolutely fine. That's a choice that you need to be comfortable with. If you feel that you're someone that is going to engage in intimacy and then afterwards or days later you're going to feel horrible, it's going to make you feel even worse, you're going to feel like you've been used, that it's just a transaction on some level, then you might want to just state to him, listen, I love you, and as much as I'd love to be intimate with you, this is just not the right thing for me at the moment. I can only do this if we are actually truly committing to this, if we're committing to the marriage. If we're not, then this just isn't the right thing right now for me, because I know it's going to impact me emotionally, and it's also going to make him feel worse as well, because what happens is, if he knows that you feel terrible about it, then he's going to be holding on to some feelings of guilt at times where he's done this, and suddenly you feel like the door is open again in terms of the marriage and so on, and then he's going to feel terrible because he's going, oh look, I've given him more hope, but I don't feel like I have hope right now, and so on. So that's why it is very much a personal decision that you need to be comfortable with, and it all comes down to self-awareness and where you're at on that journey. That to me is the real key thing here. Where are you at on your path? And if you want to share a little bit more about your situation, feel free to do so in the comments, and then I can help you navigate yourself through this as well. But if you are someone who is getting quite emotional and you've experienced it before, where you're engaging in intimacy and then he disappears and then suddenly it just throws you into an emotional spin, then you might want to say, look, I don't want to do this. But if you feel like you're at a place where you can maintain purely a physical thing, then that's totally up to you as well, and maybe that might be the right approach for you. The second question is, do I sacrifice my own needs for him? Now, let's say you've been in a marriage and he's always complained that it's always been about you and that you never meet his needs and all of that stuff. And now suddenly you might feel the need to maybe go to the other end of the spectrum, where it's all about just him all the time. And whilst I am a big believer in always coming from love and being of service and doing everything we can to just give to our partners and the people around us, there are times where we have to ask ourselves, is it for my greatest good as well to constantly sacrifice everything that I desire for him at this moment in time? And I am a big believer that in order to give fully, you've got to fill yourself up, period. And sometimes that means that we have to kind of say no. Sometimes we have to put our hands up and say, look, I'm sorry, hun, but I can't do this for you today. But how about on this day? Or how about on this day? And so on. You've got to set those boundaries on that front. Now, equally, there are often a lot of people who have just been giving and giving and giving all the time because they're doing everything they can to try and get the other person to like them or to, get the recognition that they want. So they're always coming from a place of emptiness because they don't feel full inside. So they're always looking to the other person to fill themselves up. Now, whether that's a feeling of inferiority, whether that's a feeling of constant rejection that they feel, because they have those emotions, they're constantly just giving and giving and giving, thinking that if I do this and if I do this, then I might get something back. Or they have been used to being treated so poorly for a long time, whether they were maybe brought up in an abusive household or a dysfunctional family, that becomes their way of being, that becomes their center of gravity. But they don't realize that it's actually really important to fill your own bucket up as well. And if you don't do that, then it's going to impact you in a lot of ways in the long run. So in answer to the question as far as do I sacrifice my own needs for him, I don't believe so. I think you have to absolutely fill your own bucket up. I think you have to meet your own needs. Now, there is a balance here because, as I said, it is important to serve other people when they need it. However, as I said, you've got to also make sure that you serve your own needs. So if you are in a situation where maybe you're spending so much time with the kids and you need a bit of time for yourself, that you're just feeling so drained, you might want to say to him, look, honey, I know I'm supposed to have the kids today, and it's something that I love doing, but right now I'm really exhausted, I'm really drained, and I'd love it if maybe you could just look after them for a couple of hours while I go and get a massage, or go and spend a couple of hours with my friends, or just go for a nice walk or something, just to allow yourself to decompress, to allow yourself to spend that quality time with yourself. And I promise you that if you fill up your tank, if you give yourself that love and that self-care, in the long run, you're going to be so much happier. See, a lot of us don't know what that feels like, what self-care actually feels like, and we don't know what it feels like to experience that on a regular basis. And it's almost like trying to tell someone, what a rose smells like and they've never smelt one. It's very difficult to explain it, but once you smell it, it's like, wow, that's just a beautiful smell. And it's the same thing when it comes to self-care. Often a lot of people don't know what that feels like, but once they experience it, then they want more. And it just allows you to set up this beautiful balance. And I promise you, in those states, when you're giving to yourself and when you're filling up that tank, it's going to make you want to give more in a beautiful way. And the important thing here is that we're setting a beautiful example for our kids And we're also teaching the other person, the partner or the husband, how we want to be treated and what's important to us. Whereas if the dynamic is set up that it's always about him 24/7, that his needs are always met and yours isn't, then what we're effectively doing is training the other person to treat us like this. And that's not serving you. So I urge you all, if you are someone who struggles to engage in self-care, do it. Do it now. Really take the time and the effort to, organize some time with your friends, go for a beautiful walk, get a massage, have a hot bubble bath, whatever it is. Do something that is going to fill your tank up. And the third question is do I speak up against him? Now, when you're going through a divorce or a separation and you're wanting to save the marriage, obviously you're not wanting to create friction and tension with them. I totally get that. So the natural instinct will be, I don't want to say anything that's going to disturb him or piss him off, because that's going to further vindicate his actions and further reinforce the fact that he doesn't actually want to be with me. But here's the thing. We've got to once again train others on how we want to be treated. And sometimes that means that if he's going to say something and you disagree with it, you've got to allow yourself to speak your truth in those moments. We've got to be authentic and we've got to be real. If we're always just backing down and saying, yep, okay, but deep inside there's a part of us I don't want that. It doesn't feel right for me. It doesn't serve me. It doesn't serve the kids, whatever it is. You've got to speak your truth in those moments. Now, I do believe that, we've got to sometimes pick our battles. There might be some minor things that, when we're in the heat of the moment, in the heat of the battle, if you like, they become major. But we need to look at this and go, hang on, if things were going well, would this be a problem? And if it isn't, you might say, well, look, this is one thing I might not speak up about. But if it is a major thing, if it's something that's really important to you and it goes against your principles and so on, then you might want to speak up about that. Now, that varies from person to person. Everyone's got their different rules and their different values and their beliefs and so on. So it is about looking inwardly and saying, okay, does this feel right? Is it important for me to speak my truth here? If there are some things relating to the separation agreement when it comes to, how much time you spend with the kids, that could be a major thing. Whereas, if he wants to maybe spend, a couple of hours on his day, that he's supposed to look after kids, but he's going to pick them up a couple of hours later, for example, because he is going to a ball game or whatever, then that might be something you might say, look, I'm just going to let this one slide. If it's consistently happening over and over, then you might want to speak up about it. So you want to pick your battles. You want to know which one is the one that I'm going to push for, which one am I not going to push for. But I do believe that, marriages, we have to make some sacrifices. We're going to compromise on some level. Not all the time, but on some level. Because it actually allows us to learn about each other and open our hearts to actually serving other people rather than necessarily being us having something taken away from us. So, rather than maybe using the word compromise, it actually is more about how can we serve the other person and we derive joy from it. But we only do that if we start to actually learn about ourselves and set the right boundaries and know what it is that we're prepared to tolerate in our marriage. And that comes with experience, that comes with knowing about ourselves. Now, I know sometimes setting these boundaries can be really challenging because it goes against almost how you've operated for so long if you've had challenges in this area. So if you are in a position where you're struggling, you don't know what to do, you're not sure the path you need to take, and you don't feel like you've got the support that you need on this journey, then I'd love to be of service to you through my Authentic Relationship System training program. It's an incredible program with a fusion of an actual training program that is extremely comprehensive in terms of helping you to create the shifts that you want in your marriage and, really importantly, within your own self. But there's also indefinite support on the coaching calls every week where you can get your questions answered personally by me at an in-depth level for a really long period of time as well. So if it feels right for you, if you connect and resonate with some of my videos, then what I'd encourage you to do is in the description section below, just click on that link which just says book a call with me. Just click on that link, choose a time that works for you, and then I'll contact you at that scheduled time just so I can learn a little bit more about where you're at now, where you want to get to, and how you can bridge that gap in the shortest possible time. I can't wait to be of service to you and really look forward to speaking to you and hearing about your journey. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you've liked it, make sure you hit that like button below. If you want to get more videos like this, hit that subscribe button. And do let me know what your biggest takeaway is from this video as well. I always love hearing your stories and understanding more about what's going on in your journey. So make sure you write them below and I will respond to every single one of you. And if you want to learn the 3 steps you need to apply to heal from cheating, click this video above. If you want to know how to get your husband back, just click this video above. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you in the next video.